This is an MJA Inc. Investigations warning. This MJA podcast is rated E for explicit. Some details of a case and language used on this podcast might be upsetting to some of our listeners. Listeners' discretion is advised. And for those who are still with us, kick back and enjoy the show. When there is an ending, there was a beginning. Every victim has a picture to paint. Every true crime has its time and place. Please join our MJ podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Does. Welcome to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, Episode 12, Part 7, 6 Pennsylvania Missing Person Cases. They are missing. 1 minute they are there, and the next moment they are gone, without a trace. In most cases, there are no witnesses, no paper trail to follow, and no clues left behind. In such cases, police departments follow every protocol when dealing with missing persons, but in most cases, they fall short. You have police departments, private investigators, volunteer groups, and in most cases, it's been proven that's not enough. So I ask you, where do you turn? What more can be done? They are missing. Good evening, everyone. My name is Mark, and I will be your host for tonight's show. Joining me later will be our co-host, Olivia. On this episode, we will profile 3 missing male cases and 3 missing female cases from the state of Pennsylvania. We are coming to you from Morrisonville, New York. The Doe Network has 71 males missing and 93 females listed as missing from the state of Pennsylvania. Welcome to Pennsylvania. Case 1. On May 25, 1985, 42-year-old Melvin Elwood Snyder, a white male, vanished without a trace from Greencastle, Pennsylvania. Case 2. It was December 12, 1971, when 21-year-old Elizabeth Ann Land, a white female, vanished without a trace from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Case 3. It was July 14, 2003, when 59-year-old Revel Reuben Jeter, a white male, vanished without a trace from Harrisonville, Pennsylvania. Case 4. It was February 25, 1978, when 24-year-old Stephanie Hansberger, a white female, vanished without a trace from North Wales, Pennsylvania. Case 5. On October 8, 2005, 42-year-old David Walter McIntyre, a white male, vanished without a trace from Kunkletown, Pennsylvania. Case 6. On January 7th, 1981, 29-year-old Lonnie Ray Rogers, a white female, vanished without a trace from Hayfield Township, Pennsylvania. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, Olivia will be on the line and we will profile 6 missing person cases from the state of Pennsylvania. Be back in a moment. When there is an ending, there was a beginning. Every victim has a picture to paint. Every true crime has its time and place. Please join our MJ podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, Missing Persons, Unsolved Crimes, and the Does. Welcome to our MJ podcast, this series, Deep into the Woods, Episode 12, Part 7, 6 Pennsylvania Missing Person Cases. We have Olivia on the line. How are you doing tonight?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. Okay, are you ready to dig into these unsolved mysteries?
Yes.
Okay. I must say some of these cases have some very twisted circumstances.
Okay.
Case 1. Welcome to Greencastle, Pennsylvania. On May 25, 1985, 42-year-old Melvin Elwood Snyder, a white male, vanished without a trace from Greencastle, Pennsylvania. Snyder has never been heard from again. On May 27, 1985, Snyder's truck was found parked outside of a supermarket in Registertown, Maryland. Melvin Snyder's wallet and checkbook were in the truck. There was a loaded rifle in the back, and the keys were in the ignition. The vehicle had been wiped clean of fingerprints. Joan Snyder, Melvin's wife, reported him missing the same day his truck was found. The victim's wife told police that some of his clothing disappeared with him. However, Melvin did leave $4,000 in the bank account as well as the guns he used for hunting. The 42-year-old Snyder had gone to a dentist a few days before his disappearance and made a further dental appointment for July, which he never kept. Melvin Snyder was also never claimed his pension from his workplace, the Grove Worldwide. Joan Snyder obtained a divorce from him in 1990 and remarried. In 1993, she and Melvin Snyder, she had him declared legally dead. Authorities believe Ronald West Harshman shot the 42-year-old Snyder to death in revenge because Melvin had an affair with his wife, Teresa Harshman, in 1984. In June of 1984, after Teresa told her husband about the affair, Ronald threatened to kill Melvin Snyder. Harshman rammed Snyder's vehicle with his own car and fired 2 shots at him, but missed. Harshman was charged with reckless endangerment for the incident. The 42-year-old Snyder disappeared exactly 1 year after he left with Teresa and went to Montana, where they stayed for a few weeks. They then returned to their respective spouses and ended their relationship. Melvin and Joan Snyder reconciled, but Teresa Harshman filed for divorce from Ronald a few months later. Ron Harshman was charged with criminal homicide in March 2000 and was convicted of first-degree murder in 2001. Melvin Snyder's wife, Joan, was charged as a co-defendant, but the charges against her were dropped on the eve of her trial, and she testified against Harshman. 2 .25 caliber shell casings were the only physical evidence presented at the trial. 1 shell casing was found in Melvin Snyder's barn at the time of his disappearance. The other shell casing, police dug up outside of Harshman's former home in July of 1999. Both bullets had been fired from the same gun. Ronald Harshman bought a .25 caliber automatic pistol in March of 1995. This was 3 days after his wife served him with divorce papers. The gun has never been found, and Melvin Snyder didn't own a .25 caliber gun. Joan Snyder testified that her husband Melvin was afraid of Ronald Harshman and kept a gun in his truck to defend himself if necessary. Joan Snyder said she knew of Ronald's plan to kill her husband. She helped him by telling him Melvin would be alone in his barn between 6:30 and 7 o'clock a.m. on May 25, 1985. Neighbors reported seeing a 2-tone brown truck which matched the description of Ronald Harshman's truck, and it was parked near the barn at the time. Joan Snyder stated she saw her husband's body in Ronald Harshman's basement. 3 former cellmates of Ronald Harshman testified that he had confessed the murder to them. Harshman's defense called witnesses who said the 42-year-old Melvin Snyder had spoken about wanting to return to Montana to disappear off the face of the earth and never contact anyone again. Ronald Harshman appealed his conviction, and the Pennsylvania state trooper testified on his behalf, stating the 3 cellmates had all recanted their previous statements. The 3 men were threatened with arrest if they changed their stories, and at the appeal they refused to testify, citing their Fifth Amendment rights against self-incrimination. In 2018, Harshman's conviction was overturned, and he and he will have to be retried. Melvin Snyder's body has never been found. Foul play is suspected in the case due to the circumstances involved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Pennsylvania State Police Troop H at 717-264-5161.
Case 2. Welcome to Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It was December 12th, 1971, when 21-year-old Elizabeth Ann Landy, a white female, vanished without a trace from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Landy was seen during the early morning hours of December 12, 1971, in the Overbrook Park neighborhood of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Her parents were on a cruise vacation at the time. The 21-year-old Landy spent the evening of December 11, 1971, at home watching television with two female friends. Around midnight, Landy's boyfriend, Robert Thomas Bobby Nouse Jr., called Landy. Go ahead.
It's
Did I say it wrong?
I believe it's Nass Jr.
Called Landy and asked her to come visit him for the weekend. Landy's friends tried to dissuade her from going, for it was late, and they disliked Nouse. I don't know did I say it right that time? 21-year-old Landy decided to see him anyway, and her friends left a short time later. At 1:50 a.m., Landy's across-the-street neighbor heard a noise outside and looked out his bedroom window. He saw Elizabeth Landy walk out her front door and get into a gold Oldsmobile Toronado that was waiting for her. 21-year-old Elizabeth Ann Landy has never been heard from again. One of Nouse's friends later stated he saw Landy's corpse hanging from the rafters of a parking garage behind the friend's apartment building early on December 13, 1971. The friend helped Nouse dispose of the body in the Pine Barrens area of New Jersey, near Williamstown, New Jersey, and about 16 miles outside of Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In 1977, Nouse's friend attempted to lead police to the body. He said it had been buried in a wooded area, which was later occupied by its subdivision. Authorities dug at several places but were unable to recover Landy's remains. At trial, Nouse admitted Landy was dead but stated she had taken her own life and he had never harmed her. However, after several psychiatrists who testified at the trial did not believe Landy was suicidal at the time of her disappearance, and Nouse's friend testified that Nouse had confessed to killing her. Nouse was convicted of Landy's murder in 1977 and sentenced to life in prison. Nouse escaped from prison in 1983 and was not located until 1990. While on the run, Nouse lived in Michigan under an alias name, where he got married and had 2 children. Since his capture in 1990, Nouse has remained incarcerated. The remains of 21-year-old Elizabeth Ann Landy have never been located. Foul play is suspected in her case due to the circumstances involved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Philadelphia Police Department at 215-686-3093.
Case 3. Welcome to Harrisonville, Pennsylvania. It was July 14, 2003, when 59-year-old Reuben Jeter, a white male, vanished without a trace from Harrisonville, Pennsylvania. It was between 1 and 2 p.m. on July 14, 2003, when Jeter was last seen at a butcher shop at the Lincoln Way Market in McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania. After his purchases, Jeter and his Jack Russell Terrier dog, Bubba, left the shop driving alone in a new Chrysler PT Cruiser. The 59-year-old Jeter has never been heard from again. The car was later found parked at Jeter's home on Buck Road in McConnellsburg, Pennsylvania, along with his 3 other vehicles. The 59-year-old Jeter is described as a loner. Jeter rarely travels, and his family says Bubba is his constant companion, and Jeter usually takes him wherever he goes. Bub was found running loose outside of Jeter's house after his disappearance. There was no sign of forced entry, but the door to the residence was ajar and the windows were also open. Jeter had been looking forward to a crab fest at a friend's home on July 17, 2003, but never showed up. Jeter's family members last spoke to him on July 4, 2003, and say nothing seemed to be amiss in his life at the time. Jeter's cell phone, which he usually carried with him, was found inside the house. In April 2008, one of Jeter's neighbors, Kenneth Vernon Rozier, his son, Gregory Chip Rozier, and a woman, Mildred Midge Tressler, was charged in the murder for hire case. After their arrest, the Roziers alluded to the possible location of Jeter's remains, but did not implicate themselves in his disappearance. Police searched the property near Jeter's home as a result, but found no evidence. The police also drained 2 nearby wells based on tips and rumors that Jeter's body had been disposed of in one of the wells. There was no sign of the body ever being in either well. No one has been charged in Jeter's disappearance, and it is unclear whether Kenneth or Gregory Rozier were involved. Jeter had reportedly left his ATV with the Roziers for repair before he disappeared. The 59-year-old Jeter had been divorced for 30 years prior to his disappearance, and his 2 children were not close to him. Jeter kept in touch with his sister by telephone once a week. Jeter did not have any enemies or any debts or any medical problems at the time of his disappearance. There was no sign of a struggle inside Jeter's residence. It appeared that he had left with the intent to come back very soon, but never did. Jeter's relatives do not believe he would have left the area without taking Bubba or at least making arrangements for the animal's care. Revel Reuben Jeter's case remains unsolved. In July 2010, a judge legally proclaimed Jeter dead. The Pennsylvania State Police is considering this case to be a homicide. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Pennsylvania State Police Criminal Investigation Unit at 717-485-3131 or 814-696-6100.
Case 4.
We're going to take a pause here. Let's take a pause for the cause, and when we return, we will profile 3 more missing person cases from the state of Pennsylvania, and we will be back in a moment. Okay.
Oh, I didn't know you.
Welcome back to our MJ podcast, the series Deep into the Woods, episode 12, part 7. 6 Pennsylvania missing person cases.
Case 4. Welcome to North Wales, Pennsylvania. It was February 25th, 1978, when 24-year-old Stephanie Hunsberger, a white female, vanished without a trace from North Wales, Pennsylvania. Edward Hunsberger and Stephanie Smith met in early 1977 when Edward noticed Stephanie was crying on a street corner in downtown Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Within a few months of meeting, they got married. Just a short note, the 24-year-old Stephanie Smith is the elder daughter of former high school principal Dr. J.C. Smith. Smith and another teacher were convicted of kidnapping and murder of a mother and her 2 young children. Dr. J.C. Smith was released years later on an appeal. Edward Hunsberger and Stephanie were long-term heroin addicts. At the time they met one another, neither held regular jobs, and Stephanie sometimes resorted to working as a prostitute in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. In September 1977, in an attempt to get clean, Eddie and Stephanie moved into her father's home in King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. On February 25, 1978, the couple visited the home of Eddie's parents for help filling out their tax returns. As they were leaving, Eddie told his mother, "We'll be back a little later." This was the last verified sighting of Eddie and Stephanie Hunsberger. As part of the terms of Eddie's probation from an armed robbery conviction in 1975, Eddie was required to seek treatment for his drug dependence. Both Eddie and Stephanie had a scheduled appointment at a local methadone clinic in February 1978, but they failed to show. After missing other appointments, the clinic assumed the couple had relapsed. Eddie also failed to keep up regular contacts with his probation officer, and a warrant for his arrest was issued on September 6, 1978. Following several weeks without hearing from the couple, Eddie's mother contacted Dr. Smith. Dr. Smith told her that the couple had fled to California for safety because of the amount of money they owed drug dealers. On August 19, 1978, police arrested a hooded Dr. J. Smith in the parking lot of a local mall with 4 loaded guns and a syringe filled with knockout drugs. Search of Smith's home turned up a library of BDSM pornographic material. Also found during the search was 3 pounds of marijuana and security guard uniforms that would eventually be connected to unsolved armed robberies from the past year. Smith said the drugs belonged to the Hunsbergers and went to jail denying any role in the robbery. Investigators made attempts to locate the missing couple as part of the investigation into Smith's involvement with the local robberies. The investigation was later reopened when Smith was tried as an accessory to the murder of Susan Reinhardt and her 2 children. But no leads ever led to a sighting of Edward and Stephanie Hunsberger that could be confirmed after February 25, 1978. Jay Smith told the defense team he last saw Eddie and Stephanie together the afternoon of August 19, 1978, the day of his arrest, and that he later saw Stephanie in the spring of 1979. Further unconfirmed sightings were made of Stephanie but not Eddie in the next year. One of the Smiths' neighbors told investigators she had briefly seen Stephanie sometime in 1979. In an unrelated case, an unnamed confidential informant told investigators that he had met with Stephanie in mid-August 1979. But the Hunsbergers were alive and well in the Philadelphia area. Smith's younger daughter told police that she had seen Stephanie several months after her father was sent to jail on June 25, 1979. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Pennsylvania State Police at 215-452-5251.
Case 5. Welcome to Kunkletown, Pennsylvania. On October 8, 2005, 42-year-old David Walter McIntyre, a white male, vanished without a trace from Kunkletown, Pennsylvania. It was around 4 to 4:30 p.m. on October 8, 2005, when David Walter McIntyre was last seen by his sons as he was leaving the residence. McIntyre told his sons he would return later that evening, but he did not. McIntyre's car was found later at his business on Route 209 in Chestnut Hill Township. In February 2010, Edwin J. Kelly was arrested in connection with the disappearance of the 42-year-old McIntyre. 2 other men were arrested in connection with the same crime. Anthony Gaby in June of 2013 and James Gaines in February 2015. Gaines is awaiting trial from Rikers Island Prison in New York City, where he is being held for another crime. Linda Stavish confessed to being at the crime scene after she was arrested for shoplifting in 2009. Stavish and Kelly both agreed to testify against Gaby in exchange for the third-degree murder sentences, which carries a sentence of 7 to 20 years. Gaby was found guilty of murder in January of 2016. According to Linda Stavish, McIntyre went to Kelly's home to buy drugs for personal use in October 2005. Gaby and Gaines were also there and believe McIntyre stole money from the home. Gaby struck McIntyre in the head with a claw end of a hammer As McIntyre fell to the floor, Gaby continued to strike him with the hammer while Gaines and Kelly kicked his head and body. The 42-year-old McIntyre was then dragged into the basement where he died or was near death. Stavish left the men in the basement with McIntyre, and one of the men had a gun. Several gunshots were then heard. The following day, the informant saw McIntyre's body in the backyard of a home where the three men attempted to burn it. Linda Stavish and Edwin Kelly took the victim's vehicle to his workplace where they wiped away fingerprints and left it with the keys in the ignition. Upon their return, the men put McIntyre's remains in a garbage bag, which was put in the trunk of a vehicle. The men and Stavish drove to the Hazleton area shopping near Harry's U. Pollitt. Gaby disposed of what remained of McIntyre's body, which has never been recovered. If you have any info concerning this case, please call the Pennsylvania State Police at 570-459-3890.
Case 6. Welcome to Hayfield Township, Pennsylvania. January 7th, 1981, 29-year-old. You got to help me with this name, Mark.
I believe it's Loney.
What?
Loney?
Baloney?
Loney Ray Rogers.
Loney?
Yes.
Loney Ray Rogers, a white female, vanished without a trace from Hayfield Township, Pennsylvania. Rogers was last seen at her Little Corners home, which is 10 miles northwest of Meadville, in Hayfield Township, Pennsylvania, that she shared with her husband. 29-year-old Rogers got into an argument with her husband, Clinton R. Rogers, that evening. That night, there was a severe snowstorm. Loney Rogers left between 2 a.m. and 3 a.m. Later that night, Clinton woke up and realized Loney was not in bed with him. He assumed she was asleep on the couch. When he woke up the following morning, he realized that she was not in the house at all. The 29-year-old Loney Rogers left behind her hearing aid, eyeglasses, medication, the car, and other personal items. She also left her two young children. The couple had separated before in late 1980. So when Loney disappeared, her husband initially did not report her as a missing person. Clinton said he assumed Loney left of her own accord and would return. The 29-year-old Rogers has never been heard from again. Clinton and Loney Rogers are both deaf. After Loney's disappearance, Clinton placed the young daughter up for adoption. She is now grown but is estranged from her biological father. Loney and Clinton's daughter is attempting to revive the investigation into her mother's disappearance and learn Loney's fate. The daughter learned that Clinton had been arrested multiple times and that her parents' marriage was troubled. She believes the local deaf community may have knowledge as to what happened to her mother. There has been no activity on Loney's Social Security number since she disappeared. There's little evidence available in her case, and it remains unsolved. If you have any info concerning this case, please call Pennsylvania State Police at 814-332-6911 or 1-800-4PA-TIPS, Pennsylvania Crime Stoppers.
Olivia, is there anything you would like to add to any of these cases?
Yeah, they're kind of screwy.
Yeah, I said that someone was very.
I was in Pennsylvania as a small child. My parents had brought us there, and I don't know. I just find it. I don't want to insult people from Pennsylvania. It's an odd state in that you have the city of Philly, and then you get like the Amish, which totally freak me out. I'm actually afraid of them. I don't like going near them. I don't know, something about them freak me out. And then you have mountainous areas, and then you go out west by Pittsburgh, and it's like I want to call it like coal miners country,
It's coal miners and steel country, Pittsburgh is.
And steel, the Steelers, yeah. There's a lot of desolate areas, and I don't doubt that any of this had happened because it just seems like, it's just a different, I don't know, the state is just different to me, you know. And also, I want to mention that the guy that killed those students in Idaho was from Pennsylvania. So there you go. You know, there's a lot of places to hide. You know, there's a lot of crime, and there's a lot of places you could, you know, just hide out and everything. But it just seems like there's a lot of cover-ups within the families in some of these cases. What do you think?
Yeah, yeah. Same way with the Hunsberger's fate. Stephanie's father, Dr. Smith. There's a book out called Echoes in the Dark by Joseph Wimbog, who was a 20-year veteran of L.A. Police Department, and he wrote a book about the mother Reinhardt and her two children being murdered by Smith and another teacher. And it's a very good book. It's very long. It's in a lot of detail, and it's worth the read. And that's why I'm saying some of these cases was twisted. It was just what is the law enforcement is looking at. What are the odds that his daughter would come up missing while he was going through all this turmoil?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and there's a lot of investigators that believe that it was him that made the couple disappeared. And so, like I said, a lot of these cases.
Pennsylvania is a large state. It takes forever to get from one end to the other, you know, if you're going across country. And also, I had a friend, she's now deceased. She actually worked for the deaf community. You know, it was like a nonprofit place that helped the deaf. And it was out in Butler, Pennsylvania, which is by Slippery Rock, all the way out west. Yeah. And, you know, she used to tell me about the area and stuff and, you know, what was going on, crimes and stuff. So, you know, like I said, it's a huge state. You know, there's a lot of people go out there, you know, they retire there. But, you know, you never know with anything. But not to say that my state is any better because it's not.
Okay.
You know.
Okay. I want to thank Olivia for being on the show tonight. A special thanks to our viewers and listeners for tuning in, for y'all have been so kind. I have a quote for you all. Family, forever, for always, no matter what. And this is from Easy Glam. Always remember, folks, that if you ever get bored with nothing to do, well, take a walk deep into the woods. You might be surprised at what you might find. That's the end of our MJ podcast, this series, Deep Into the Woods. This has been episode 12, part 7, 6 Pennsylvania missing person cases. We say to all of you, good night from Morrisonville, New York.
Lonely shadows following me. Lonely ghosts come a-calling. Lonely voices talking to me. Now I'm gone, now I'm gone, now I'm gone. And my mama told me, girl, let it be. Sold my soul to the calling. Sold my soul to sweet melody. Now I'm gone, now I'm gone, now I'm gone. Oh, give me that fire. Oh, give me that fire. Oh, give me that fire. Burn, burn, burn. 1,000 faces staring at me. 1,000 times I've fallen. 1,000 voices dead at my feet. Now I'm gone, now I'm gone, now I'm gone. And my mama told me, girl, let it be. Sold my soul to the calling. Sold my soul to sweet melody. Now I'm gone, now I'm gone, now I'm gone. Oh, give me that fire. Oh, give me that fire. Oh, give me that fire. calling my name out, lost in the fire. Sweet Virginia blood